Okay, friends. Oh, I'm so excited about this. I am sitting here with my new friend, Abby Hatteberg, and you're going to love this episode. I'm going to love this episode. I have 8 bazillion questions for Abby, and I have been so disciplined as to not dive in yet. We made sure we were recording. So let's get to it. Abby, first of all, tell us who you are, what you do, and I'd love to hear a fun fact about you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Abby Hatteberg. I am Dallas, like very average mom of 3. My husband, Luke, we have been married 15 years. So my kiddos are 9, just turned 9, 6.5, and a year and a half going on 2, all boys. So 2 girls and a boy. We're in Dallas. Yes, a very average mom of 3 here. And I help teach other women how to maximize their credit card points to earn nearly free or like very steeply discounted vacations for their family so that they can have more experiences together and maybe take some bucket list trips that they would like never be able to afford otherwise. I love what I do. It is a total passion. And I'm like so grateful. It's like such a gift to do what I do. It's really a dream job. And let's see, fun fact. Okay. Fun fact that a lot of people don't know about me is as soon as I got a degree in elementary education, like really kind of always knew I wanted to be a teacher. But after I graduated, I was like, I really don't want to go back to Dallas. Like, it sounds kind of boring. Like I'm really, want to go do something else. So I had like in my head, I'm like, I really want to go to like Africa or South America, like had a little bit of like a mission-minded teaching thing there. I applied with this like international teaching organization. And of all the places in the world, I didn't get a placement in Africa or South America, but I got a placement in Italy, which was like, I had never been there, like didn't know the language, didn't know a soul, met my husband like, 3 months before I was supposed to leave. And he was like, go, you've got to do this. So anyway, so I spent my first year post-college teaching at an international school in Italy in this kind of smaller town, like right on the border of Italy and Slovenia. And it was the best year of my life, obviously, like kids aside and marriage aside.
Right. Yeah,
it was like, you're just like, wandering off to like another country every weekend. And it was just like the most wonderful, magical year. And like definitely is what instilled even further, like a love of travel. So yes, fun fact.
You and I are soulmates, like truly. I studied abroad in college, and that was not necessarily the beginning, but like a kind of a really big push in the direction of loving travel. And actually, one of my best friends that I studied abroad with, I studied abroad in Spain. She and I are moving together at the end of this week to Spain with our families. So we're going back because again, it was like the best. It was the best. I mean, we were only there for 4 months, and I'm like, best 4 months of my life.
Totally.
Other great milestones, life, my children, my marriage, whatever. Those things aside. I love that. And actually, after college, I spent 10 weeks in Africa, in Ghana.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of a similar thing where I like signed up to do this trip and was like, I don't get to pick where I'm going to go. Where am I going to go? And this committee decided for me. I really did think that when you said, I didn't get to go to Africa or South America, I thought you were going to say you ended up in Dallas. And I was going to be like, come on.
Yeah, right. I know. And the irony is like at the time I was like bummed about Italy, which is like absurd, right? Little did I know like what was on the other side of that door. But, at the time I like had this vision for what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Anyways, it ended up being like the biggest blessing. And now like, Europe is like our thing. Like we just love Europe. We would love to go and live in Europe at some point, but God has just had other plans, and we have been in Dallas now for 15 years, despite many attempts. Like we went and served for an entire summer in Spain, like our second summer so like we totally are like, yes, I feel like we're connected. We've got, like such a love for that part of the world. So.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So I'm so excited about this topic because, like you said, there's so many women in the world, but I mean humans, but we talk to women around here. There's so many women in the world who love travel like we do and who want to travel, but who see something like somewhere in Africa or South America or anywhere in Europe, and it is like on the list of impossible things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I totally get that. I mean, I feel like you and I, the way that we traveled first, I mean, mine was always education based. And so I'm like, great, I'm going to go work on my language skills. And then it was a lot of humanitarian work, which are like, and teaching, like those are cheaper ways to travel,
right.
But they're not as possible when we're, full grown-ups with husbands and kids and houses and mortgages and things like that. And so I feel like for so many of us, we're looking around at our life. We can't just pick up and go teach for a year, but we have these big travel dreams and they're just out of reach.
Yeah.
But you have sort of hacked the system in a way that is so compelling to me. But I feel like needs to be approached with caution. And that's why I'm so glad you're here, because 100%. I'm like, we are playing with fire a little bit here. Yes. I think that we might create something amazing. However, we just got to be careful. So tell me, like, how did you stumble upon this way of traveling? What does it look like for you?
Yeah. So we've been married for 15 years. We like always connected over a love of travel, and we always like got creative with like, ways to make travel happen throughout the years. We've always kind of been like a one income family. And so, never had like hundreds of thousands of dollars to play with to like go and take, all these trips we really wanted to take. And so kind of like, throughout the years, just really got really creative, whether it be like flash flight deals or for quite a few years, we were like Airbnb-ing our home while we went away to like make trips happen. Like, we're like, why don't we leverage this asset that's empty, to try, like, we were so like, we just love it. Like, it is what brings us life. So we were like, let's put all our eggs in this basket to make this happen. And so I feel like over the years, as our family grew and like our income did not, I feel like
Snaps over here, feeling you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like it's, as kids are really expensive. Inflation is really expensive. And I feel like as our family grew and our income didn't, it got harder and harder to like make the trips happen that we wanted to. And so about like, probably about 6 years ago, we were like, we would love to, I was kind of postpartum with our second. I was like really kind of in the throes of like postpartum depression. And I was like, I have got to get out. Like, I've got to go do something. I've got to like reinvigorate myself and out. And so basically from there, it like started this kind of like dream to basically go live in Italy for a month with our babies, right? Like, I had lived there. My husband had came and visit me over there. I was like, I've got to go back to Italy. I hadn't been back since, and I've got to take my babies with me. But it was like completely out of the question budget-wise. And
how old was your youngest?
Yeah, so she was 8 months at the time, and then our oldest was like about to turn 3. So they were little.
Okay, like that is like, we've talked about this on the show before, but one of the things that, I waited a while to have kids, and I wasn't totally sure if I was sure I wanted to, partially because of all the things that people told me about what you can and can't do once you have once you're a mom.
Right.
And the number one thing people told me I couldn't do was travel. And so I'm like, okay, like, just like you, this isn't just a random side hobby. This is like where my soul breathes. Like, this is like essential to my being. And so it felt like you had to kind of pick one or the other. And so I know that there are maybe some other people who felt that. And even just the fact that you're saying, I was in the throes of postpartum depression, and you weren't like, I need to do an extra face mask or something. You're like, I need to go to Italy for a month with my kids. Yeah. I'm like, my younger self is singing hallelujah right now. So
and it really was so healing, like for the whole family. For me, like I do feel like it really was like a turning point for me. And thankfully, so this is kind of what led us to like look at all the creative ways we could make this happen, because like our budget told us like there's no way you're going to Italy for a month with your family.
Yeah.
And so that is what led me to eventually like credit card points and miles and diving into the world of reward travel. And it was like kind of nothing I had ever heard of before. I was really skeptical at first. But then once I saw the payoff, and what we were able to do, and now what we're able to do like multiple times a year, then I was like, okay, I'm sold. I'm in, like 100%. And so that's kind of what initially kicked it off. We took that month-long trip to Italy. It was everything I dreamed of and more. And yeah, since then we've just kind of been, making like as many bucket list trips happen as possible for as little cost as possible. And very thankfully, we've been able to do that. So,
oh man, it's so cool. How did your kids do? What has it been like traveling with your kids? Maybe asking for a friend who's about to do it.
Good, hard. There's always hard moments, right? I feel like it is 100% about your mindset. Like if I'm going to parenting is always hard. Like it's always hard. So for me, like I might as well be in a bucket list destination. Even like the transit getting over there, I just always have in my mind, like I can do anything for 9 hours. Like I can do anything for 9 hours, right? Like it's going to pass. Like my expectation is always essentially anything like a little bit better than a complete dumpster fire, like is a win when traveling with kids. Like it really is, because once you get to the destination, like it's always, always worth it. And sometimes that on the way goes a whole lot better than others. And now like my older girls, 9 and 6.5, I mean, they are travel champs. Like I always say, travel begets better travelers. And I just think if you just get out there, even a road trip, right? Like when they're really young, like the more you travel with your kids, the more they get better at it, the more you as a family get better at it and your rhythms. And like I have a solo flight coming up. Actually, somehow my first solo flight with my kids. I don't know how. I've just always traveled with my husband this next week. And I'm like not at all worried about the girl. Like they are like going to be like little adults, essentially. Like they know the drill. Now my little guy, he is like all boy, climbing on tables, pulling at airplane seats. Like he has definitely been like a new season of traveling. And I would say we have like probably the most active boy that we could have. But even with that, like it is always been worth it. And even that, it's been so fun to like watch him almost like, for lack of a better word, step up to the plate. Like he is really like, it has grown and stretched him to be more flexible and adaptable. Anyways, I could talk about it forever, but yeah, they have done awesome, and it's been really hard, but also a joy. So.
Oh, that's so good. That's literally out of my mouth have come the words. Yeah. I can do anything for 8 hours. Like I can do anything for 8 hours. Like the time will pass. Exactly. And we will get there, and then we will recover. And that is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
For people who are skeptics, I'm totally a credit card person. I'm not like a responsible credit card person, but we've had some representatives from like Dave Ramsey world come on the show before. So I know we have a couple people listening who are like scared of credit cards. Yeah. So start with that. Like, how do we make sure that we're doing this safely? How do we I guess maybe explain what safely means? Because now I feel like people are like, what should I be afraid of? So talk to us about that.
Yeah. I feel like what you said earlier was so good. Like almost like playing with fire, which not to scare people away, but like just like a fire, if not used properly, like it can cause tons of destruction. But if within boundaries, like it's actually like such a gift, right? It warms your home. So I really, really look at credit cards as the same. Like if you are in a season where you can't pay your balances off in full, you can't have that like self-discipline to use your credit card like a debit card, like this hack might not be for you in this season. I think that is like, above all, what I preach like all the time, like get your financial ducks in a row and then maybe look at this means of like drastically saving on travel. So I think the key there is, yes, using your credit card like a debit card. So you are never, ever making purchases you don't already have the money for. We are religiously paying our balances off in full and on time, like every single month. Again, using the credit card like a debit card. So I feel like above all, there's kind of a lot more like nuanced type of guidelines that you do need to kind of like stay within if you want to leverage credit cards for nearly free travel. But I feel like above all, it's making those full and on time payments. Following the guidelines, like if you are going to be opening multiple cards, you're not running out and opening like 5 cards in 2 weeks. 100% you're going to see your credit score tank if you do that. So there is 100% a way to do this and travel the world at a really steep discount and like keep that peak financial health. We have like truly never seen our credit score higher since diving into reward travel. And it feels so ironic and like backwards. But once you understand like how credit scores are calculated and how it works, it makes perfect sense. And anyone in reward travel will tell you, we've never seen our score higher. Our score like rarely dips below 800 at this point. And it's been really cool to see that we can like make these trips possible for our family and also like never see our credit score higher. So
yeah. Is there like, before we get into the nitty-gritty, is there any like part of us that should feel like guilty about like are we like taking too many free samples at Costco here? Or do you know what I mean? Like, like, is there should we have any like red flags about that?
Totally. I think that's such an insightful, thoughtful question. I am a big believer that like I'm going to like kind of take advantage of what has been presented to me again within the guidelines. Like I think, especially credit card companies, they're really sensitive to what's called like churning. You don't want to be just like gaming the system essentially, which is, I would say, like taking way too many samples at Costco. Like I think there is a way you can do this really responsibly and really thoughtfully to set your family up for success without completely like gaming the system and, churning through things, so I love that question. That's so thoughtful and insightful.
I feel like it's, how whenever anyone signs up for a credit card, there's all this stuff that comes with it. Like, I don't know, they always say like concert tickets that you might have access for or access to, or like, it's always so confusing about like, do you need to pay for extra insurance on a rental car? But it's like, no, I think that because of your credit card and also probably your car insurance, like you don't, like your credit card has all these perks that I know for me, I don't know like any of them and I don't use any of them.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like it's kind of that. It's like you're signing up for a thing, you're taking as much as like is allotted to you. Like you're taking the maximum you're allowed to get, and you're learning all the rules so that you can use the maximum benefits of having this thing.
Absolutely.
But you're not gaming the system because you're doing it within the boundaries that the credit card companies have said. Like,
right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what does this look like? Like, how are you getting points? How are you, like, just walk us through. I don't know very much about this. So tell me everything.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say there's what's called almost like a points cycle that we are kind of like continuing rinse and repeat through. Step 1 is we are using our like everyday spending. So our normal like budgeted purchases we would have made anyways. And instead of, using those purchases to put on the same card over and over, like maybe you're like, I always joke, like everyone has that like Costco credit card they opened like 15 years ago, or that like one American Airlines card that they like put all their purchases on. And I think we just don't know that there's like better, more valuable options out there because we're just, we've been doing it for so long. So first and foremost, using those everyday purchases and signing up for a card, a strategic sign up for a card that provides like valuable travel benefits and a sign up bonus. So how it works is, credit card companies say, hey, if you spend X amount within X time, we're going to award you X number of points. It's what's called like a sign up bonus. And so essentially what we are doing is we are using our normal everyday budgeted expenses. Like we're never spending a dime more to get points. Because that completely defeats the whole free travel thing. We are using those everyday purchases to earn these sign-up bonuses. We are taking those points, and then maybe I'm going to say refer my spouse to that same card. So we're earning, say we earned like 60,000 points, and then my spouse earned 60,000 points. We are then combining all those points together, and we are not using those points to get a cashback statement credit. We are not using those points to purchase like a gift card in the portal. Like I know for so many years, I think back and I'm like, RIP to all the trips I like threw away for spending my credit card points on like restaurant gift cards in the travel portal,
Mm-hmm.
We are not usually we are not using those points in the travel portal. The key with reward travel is using those points and then transferring them out to hotel and airline partners of your card. So that is like the kicker that I feel like a lot of people, like before I got into this, like I didn't even know that my card had transfer partners. Like I didn't even know there was hotels and airlines that partnered with my bank that I could move those points to and get like wildly more value out of them. Like, and the banks don't want you to know that because they want you to just get that cashback statement credit. They want you to just use your points in the portal because that puts money back in their pockets. And so that is kind of the key. So you're using your everyday expenses to sign up for like a strategic value rich card. You're not using those points then for cashback statement credit or in the portal. You are transferring those points out to airline and hotel partners. And then it's kind of like rinse and repeat. And so we will then, sign up for another card, which automatically people are like,
wait.
wait. Like, what do you mean? What about your credit score? And so we can get into that in a bit. But that is essentially like the core of the point cycle, and that is how we're able to get just like so many more vacations and trips and experiences for our family than we would have been able to otherwise. So,
okay, that's man. I've done half of that. Like I've signed up for like I have travel rewards cards. I have a Southwest one because for a long time we live in Nashville, and for a long time Southwest was like the best way to get anywhere. Yeah. I feel like that's not actually the case anymore. But for years before we had kids, we were able to get like basically everywhere with reward travel. We had the companion pass. I think we still do for a little bit longer. And that was like so great. But then when you're buying 2 more tickets, now we're buying 4 tickets everywhere we go. Right. And it's like our points, we used to be sitting on some points, now they're gone. The other card that we have is Chase Sapphire.
Yeah. Great. That's the best one to have.
Okay, wait, hang on.
Yeah, you're doing it right.
I don't have it with me. I have whichever one is the more expensive one.
Okay.
Because I thought that if you book, so backing up a little bit. So I've gotten those like intro, like welcome bonuses, but the thing that I haven't done is gotten them more than once. Like I just got them and then stuck with the card and then have used whatever points I've gotten from spending, our regular expenses on those cards. But the reason I got that one Chase one is because I thought that in the portal, you get like 1.5 times, times rewards. But I feel like several times, even with our trip, our tickets to Spain, I didn't book it through the portal because I'm like, it's cheaper if I book it. Like I found a cheaper flight elsewhere, so I just booked it elsewhere, but I did it without points. So the points really go further if you transfer them out than they do even in the portal with 1.5?
Yeah, that is such a good question. And like, I feel like so many people are like right there where you're at. And so I rarely will use my points in the portal. The only time I will is when I pair it with, like, say, a flash flight deal. So you can sign up for like services like Hello Going or Thrifty Traveler that send you notifications to your inbox when flights say like drop in price or there's a mistake fare, etc.
What's a mistake
So
fare?
A mistake fare would be like if an airline made a mistake. So like, for example, just a few weeks ago, there was a mistake fare to Dublin for like sub $200 to fly to Dublin. Yeah, insane. So you get these, emails in your inbox, you're notified. Typically they last like 24 to 48 hours. You have to act quickly. But they're an amazing way to save on travel. And that is really the only time I will use my travel portal, is with that multiplier. So I have the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which gets you 1.25 times more in the portal versus you have the Reserve, which gets you 1.5 times. And so that's really the only time. So for example, let's break this down like real life scenario. So let's say you're flying to Spain. So for example, let's say I would say on average for Europe, like peak season, it's going to cost like probably $1,000 to fly to Europe on average. Let's use that for, easy numbers sake. So you can pay for that ticket in cash, $1,000. You could, option 2, you can use your points, say either as a cashback statement credit. You would need 100,000 points to essentially erase that $1,000 ticket. Okay, so you have $1,000 cash ticket. You need 100,000 points to erase that cash ticket.
Okay.
Let's say you book in the portal where your points are worth 1.5 times more, right? So you're going to need a little bit less. I think what you would need 750,000 points to book that in the portal.
75.
75,000 points.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was totally with you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. 75,000 points to book that in the portal. Now, let's say you take those same points and transfer them to an airline partner of your Chase Sapphire card. So for example, Iberia is a great option for flying to Spain, especially for families. If I transfer my points to Iberia to book a flight to Spain, I can get tickets to Spain for as low as 17,000 points one way. So 34,000 points. So we're looking at, instead of 75,000 points, I can book that exact same flight for 34,000 points. And when you have a family, it's like, that's the difference between, one ticket and two, so it really does pay to have like value rich credit cards in your wallet and then learn your credit card's transfer partners. Like if you just do that alone, like you are already on your way to earning more travel. So yeah, it's pretty wild. Like it's kind of mind blowing.
My points back.
The banks don't advertise it, Of course they don't. And they have these transfer partners set, like they partner with these airlines on purpose, but they're not advertising the power of transferring your points out to these partners. So
I just thought that it would be comparable. Like I thought that it would be like, well, it's going to be about the same, whatever. And it's not. Like as a rule, it's not.
Yeah. Typically, I mean, you do have to, like, I will say, like, it's never a, perfect scenario. Like things like having some flexibility in your dates is really helpful, even just by like 1 or 2 days. That's really helpful and can ensure you get like the very best rates. Things like booking really far in advance ensures you get the very, very best rate. So like ideally, I tell my clients to book like ideally 9 to 12 months in advance to like get your pick of dates and your pick of flights, which like for me, I was forever a like last minute travel planner, like 100%. And this has really caused me to kind of shift my rhythms there and start planning travel much more further in advance than I did in the past. So,
I always thought that people say you're supposed to buy domestic flights like 3 months and then international 6 months or something like that. Is that not?
Yeah, cash works totally differently. Total different system. Like points, booking flights and airlines on points is a totally different ecosystem and beast, like 100%. So essentially, like with flights, what happens is an airline releases, say, like a set number of award flights. So if you have, again, for easy number 6, 100 seats on that plane, they're maybe going to release, let's say like 15 of those seats to be bookable on points. So once those seats start to get taken up, that price in points is going to go up and up and up. So the key strategy with booking things on points, like obviously you can always find great, like super last minute deals, right? That's always going to be around. But like, especially for families, if you're needing to secure 3, 4, 5, 6 tickets, like the key there is ideally booking 9 to 12 months in advance so you can snag those very lowest point rates and like get your pick of dates. Which I know a lot of us are working with like school breaks, and like we don't have the luxury of, like my husband works in administration at a school. So like we have our set breaks and that's it. Like we have to be back by X date. And so we've really had to shift like our rhythms to be, like right now I'm booking spring break for next year, essentially. Which is, it's just kind of a total shift.
That is mind blowing. Oh my gosh. I did not know that. Oh man, I did not know any of this.
Yeah.
Okay. So once you've done this, like it makes sense to me how, and I think hopefully a lot of us have, well, okay, actually let me back up. You've said a couple of times like value rich points, and you said that the credit card that we have is a great one. How do we even pick to begin with what credit card we sign up for? Because I think some of us, like I had for the longest time, I had just a regular like no points credit card that I literally signed up for in high school. That was like my main credit card for the longest time. And it's hard to shift our rhythms. So how do we figure out what a good credit card is?
Such a good question. And I feel like if you walk away with nothing else, like I hope people walk away with like just maybe a shift in like, oh, maybe the card in my wallet like isn't as valuable as I thought, Like I feel like a lot of people are already doing the like, okay, we've moved from a debit card. We at least know it's good to get like points back in our pocket, but so many people don't know about like the different types of cards out there. So when it comes to value rich cards, I think the first thing you need to understand is there's kind of like 2 types of points. There's what I call like fixed points, and then there's flexible points. So for example, your Southwest card. Your Southwest card is earning you fixed points. Those points can only be used on Southwest flights. Nothing else really, right? At least that would get you much value. Yeah. Those points are earning you Southwest points. For example, if you have a Hyatt card, that Hyatt card is earning you Hyatt nights at a Hyatt property, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So limited redemption options. Those cards can be good, but they don't compare to the value of having flexible points in your pocket. So flexible points are going to be like general travel rewards cards issued by major banks like Chase, Capital One, Citi, Amex. These are going to earn you flexible points that can be transferred to a variety of airlines. So for example, let's look at the Chase Sapphire, which is the number 1 card I recommend, especially if you're just starting out. Like if you want one card in your wallet forever, like that's probably the card you want to have in your wallet is this Chase Sapphire Preferred. So you're doing good. Good. So like, for example, I can take my Chase points and I can transfer them to Hyatt. I can transfer them to Marriott. I can transfer them to Southwest. I can transfer them to United. I can transfer them to Iberia. I think there's a list of, I think it's like 12 transfer partners. So in essence, it's making that card not just a Southwest card, but also a Hyatt card, also a Marriott card, also a, Iberia card. So when it comes to reward travel, flexible points really are like king in the reward travel world. So look at the card in your wallet, determine like, am I earning flexible points? Is there a card I can get that would provide like more ongoing value? And then you kind of get into like the perks, right? Like points aside, you get into the perks of a card. So for example, with the Chase Sapphire, it's really valuable because of its varied and really valuable transfer partners. But it also is providing things like really robust travel insurance. So for example, like my husband and I just went to Cabo. We had a canceled flight on the way home, and they could not get us out for 2 days. And so we were, left to drop quite a bit of unexpected money on additional hotel stays and food, etc. But because we booked our travel with the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and even though we booked on points, we just paid for the taxes with the Chase Sapphire Preferred. That has built-in trip insurance. So essentially, we can file in a claim, and they're going to cover up to $500 a person for all of those hotel costs. We just need to provide proof of cancellation. So something like that, looking for that in a card is really, really valuable. I would say the other notable thing is making sure it has some sort of pretty solid multiplier on some of your highest spend categories. So for example, the Chase Sapphire Preferred has 3 times points on online groceries and dining out, which for us are unfortunately some of our biggest spend categories. So for us, that's a really valuable multiplier. Instead of just, that's let's say we, spend $50 on dinner, instead of 50 points back in our pocket, that's 150 points back in our pocket.
Wouldn't it be different if you don't have a car, or you have a car, but you don't commute very much or something? If all of your multipliers were on gas, you'd be like, great, well, I don't buy much gas, but I do buy dinners out.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think really valuable to kind of look at things like that and what the card is actually offering you. And then all of that kind of in connection and in comparison to the annual fee. So, you don't want to, for example, I think lots of people talk a lot about the Amex Platinum. It's a luxury card. It's got an insane annual fee of $695. And Amex points are very valuable, but the perks it provides can be kind of tricky to use. It offers I think it's a $200 credit at Dell. And you're like, well, I'm not really shopping at Dell, So for the Chase Sapphire, that's again why it's the most widely promoted best overall travel rewards card, because of the perks and value it's providing for that very low $95 annual fee is kind of unmatched.
Yeah.
So kind of all those factors go into choosing a value rich card.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think with the Preferred, the one that we have, it's maybe I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's maybe $500 a year for the annual fee, but every year you get $300 in travel credit.
Correct.
And it just if there are things that you have to do manually, figure out that Dell has a thing and get the
totally.
If it has a bunch of steps, that's going to be hard. But something that I've really liked about it is that $300 just goes right back on your card. So it's
Exactly.
if you take an Uber somewhere or you buy a flight or something like that, it just appears right on your card. And so that immediately cuts it down to $200.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel has been really nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So once we figure out what card we have, then how do we go through the process again of getting another sign-up bonus?
Totally.
What do we need to look out for? And then what do we do with the card that we just signed up for?
Yes, I love such good questions. And this is what everyone asks. They're like, so you just have all these cards?
I'm picturing you opening your wallet and it's
yes, exactly.
They all roll out.
Very in-depth question. But essentially, I think first and foremost, we have to get over the mental hump that having lots of cards on your account does not automatically mean a lower credit score. I think I know I grew up in a very financially minded home, which I'm so grateful for. But that's why I kind of sat on the sidelines for so long, is because I was just so skeptical. I don't understand how you can just keep opening all these cards and not see it impact your credit score. And again, it feels backwards. But when you're staying in the guidelines and following the rules, for lack of a better word, you most likely are only going to see your score go up. It is not about the amount of cards you're holding, is more about how you're managing those cards. So yes, so let's say you go through that cycle, you earn that bonus, you transfer those points out to partners for one really epic, amazing family vacation. And then you're like, well, shoot, I used all my points. what do I do now? And so then we repeat that cycle over and over, which again, I know sounds like wild. You're like, it just goes against everything we were ever taught growing up. But if you can figure out a way to manage those, and there are like free apps and resources, for example, highly, highly recommend the Travel Freely app. It is free and it like basically is my sanity saver. Like it does all the work for me. When I sign up for a new card, I log it in there. It keeps track of it for me. I'm not putting any personal like card number details in there, just the type of card. It is sending me notifications about annual fees when those are due, so I can decide whether like, am I keeping this card or am I doing something else with it? So there are resources and tools out there to like really take that heavy lifting off. But yeah, essentially once you sign up for that next like flexible points, really highly recommend starting with a lot of flexible points cards. You sign up for that card and then you are going to want to keep that. I always recommend you're never, ever going to downgrade a card before the 1 year mark. And what I mean by downgrade is like, let's say the Chase Sapphire Preferred, right? It's got a $95 annual fee. So if I just like continually perpetually pay all these annual fees on all these cards I've opened, well, that's kind of defeating the whole free travel thing, right? And so after that 1 year mark, a lot of the cards we're opening, we are downgrading. So essentially we are product changing. You are changing that card to a no annual fee version. So you are like keeping your credit history intact, which the banks love. And that's why a lot of times you see your score go up. You are keeping that like credit history and length intact, but you're not having that annual financial obligation.
So you're keeping all the cards, or you're keeping like that new like account that you opened or whatever. But yeah, you're making it so that you don't have the great version of it anymore. It's like, and the thing about having all these cards is like something that I've learned in the last handful of years, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I'm new at this, but your credit score is like about how much credit you have available to you versus how much credit you use. And so every time you open a card, it's saying, my ceiling is going up, my ceiling is going up, my ceiling is going up, which means how much I've used of it is going down. And you get to maintain that for as long as you have that like account open, basically, even if it's not an annual fee.
Yep, exactly. So your utilization is going down. So as you get more and more credit like issued to you, but you're still making those full and on time payments, your utilization is going down. And that's why pretty much 100% of people jumping into reward travel see their credit score like shoot up way past 800. Again, it feels backwards. But it's not about the number of cards on your account. It is about how you are managing those cards and using them responsibly. And again, there are like amazing tools and resources out there to like take off that stress of like, oh my gosh, I have X number of accounts open, things that are out there to really help, right? Like I don't have busy mom of 3 working part-time from home. Like I don't have mental space to like keep track of all of this stuff. So there are amazing resources and tools out there like Travel Freely that help manage that to take that like burden off, and we can still get all these amazing vacations. So
when you downgrade a card, do you need to like spend something on that card every year to keep it active, or?
Great question. Yeah, you can. You don't have to. There's certain banks that are more like particular to that than others, like Amex. They want you to keep spending on that card. So maybe you're putting like one small recurring like auto pay essentially on there. So you're not thinking about it. You're not having to manage and juggle 5 million cards. But yeah, I would say for the most part, you don't have to. There are certain banks that are very sensitive to that, like Amex. And with any sort of Amex card, you'd want to keep like some sort of recurring, very small auto pay on there if you can. Yeah,
you could put like your Netflix subscription or something on there and like have it auto pay. Okay,
exactly. Okay. Yep, exactly.
Okay, so you downgrade that card and then you apply for a new one. Is there like, how often can you do this?
Yeah, such a great question. So I would say on average, we are essentially always like working on meeting a new minimum spend. Like we are always working on earning a welcome bonus at this point. And again, the beauty of this is like you can make it whatever you want. Like obviously, like this is my job now. So we push really hard into reward travel to earn, I would say on average, probably like 4 to 5 trips a year. So we are earning on average probably like 1,000,000 points a year from credit card sign up bonuses. Yes, from like our everyday spending. And it's sure as heck not by us spending $1,000,000. Like we don't have that kind of money. But you don't have to. If you're like, no way, I don't like, I would love to just take like 1 trip a year. Like you can do that. It really is whatever you want it to be. Maybe you just open like 1 to 2 new cards a year. You earn, one really awesome vacation a year that's like very steeply discounted. And then maybe you downgrade those cards after so you don't have those annual fees. But that's kind of the beauty is you can make it what you want. You can push in really hard like we are and earn that like really multiple bucket list trips a year, or you can kind of do the light version and get 1 trip a year. So the key that I always say, the key is to really try and space your applications by 90 days. Like that's right. We want to keep the banks happy. We want to keep our credit score in peak health. There are a lot of people out there that go really hard at this, but I believe in like going hard, but also like being really responsible about it. Because above all, like no nearly free trip is worth like damaging my financial health, right? Absolutely not. Like no vacation is worth like our credit score taking a big hit and like putting us at risk for future financial risk. So I like kind of walk that line of like, yes, I'm going to earn my family as many vacations as possible, but I'm also going to do it like conservatively, responsibly, and like keep those banks and my credit score like really happy long term. So every 90 days is kind of a really good rhythm to stick to. I would say on average, we're applying for cards every like a new card, maybe every 60 days, but that's because we are like rotating back and forth. So for example, like maybe I'm applying for a card in January, and then my husband's applying for a card in March. And then maybe my business is applying for a card in May. And then maybe his business is applying for a card in July. So once you get to the end of the year, like me personally on my credit score, maybe I've opened 2 cards that year. So there is a lot of power if you can kind of have kind of someone else on your team. It doesn't need to be a partner. Maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your sister, someone you're like combining your points with. And then also business cards are a huge, huge, huge earning opportunity. And it's really a whole lot easier to get approved for business cards than you think. You don't have to have like an official LLC. You can, and no side hustle is too small, essentially. So that's another amazing opportunity for earning free travel that business cards don't at all reflect on your personal credit at all. So they're kind of like, it's a little bit of like a backdoor massive earning potential. So that's kind of the rhythm. But yeah, overall, I recommend like per social security number or EIN number for a business, try and keep it to that like 90-day rhythm.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you have to, oh my gosh, my mind is exploding. How do you pick like what card you like rotate to next? Like how often can you apply? How often can you get the like Chase Sapphire Reserve?
Yeah. Oh, such a good question. So that's like a whole nother thing. Most people don't know, like there's a lot of cards out there that you can get the bonus on again. So for example, in the Chase Sapphire, you can actually get that bonus every 48 months, which is pretty awesome. So you can essentially get that card, you can downgrade it to a no annual fee version, and then say a few weeks later, reapply for that Chase Sapphire card and earn that welcome bonus again. And there are a lot of cards out there that you can do that with. So
that's once every 4 years. Yeah. But like there's like if you get into a rhythm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Keep going.
Yeah, I love it. I can like see your mind churning.
Uh-huh.
Okay, what was the question? Remind me of the question.
So like what, yeah,
How do
what,
we know
or
what card?
how do you pick which card to do next? And like, are there enough cards for you to get through?
Such good question. I feel like you're hitting like all the like frequently asked questions that everybody like, wait a second, what? Like, how does this work?
Uh-huh.
So how do we determine what card to pick? There are a lot of cards like flexible point cards that you don't need a plan for. Like they are very valuable. You can use them for a ton of travel. And you kind of know, like, if I sign up for that card, I'm going to find a way to use those points. So flexible point cards, you can kind of like move through those, you know, in a really helpful rhythm. There are other ones where maybe we might sign up for based on like a specific trip we want to take. So like, for example, we just went to Cabo and there we stayed at the Waldorf Astoria there. Which like never in my wildest dreams did I think I could stay at a place like that. It goes for $1,500 a night in cash. Like never, right? No, we never could afford that. And so I knew we wanted to take a trip to Cabo. I knew I wanted to stay at the Waldorf Astoria. So I can sign up strategically for a card that earns me that vacation. So again, it kind of gets back to like the fixed points and flexible points. Like there are cards you can sign up for that earn you flexible points that like, like you can use them on a variety of travel. And then there's maybe specific fixed points that you could sign up for if you have a specific vacation in mind. And that's kind of what I have a whole bunch of resources that like walk you through like all the nitty gritty of that, because it can get really unique based on your home airport, based on the way you like to travel, based on the number in your party. Like there's a lot of nuances there. And I do have some resources that like help my students kind of walk through that. But yeah, for the most part, you know, you're kind of I'm always kind of looking at the year ahead. Like, okay, where do we want to go this year? And then I'm kind of like backtracking into earning those points, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like this next year, we're going to Costa Rica in March. And then we're going to do Europe in the summer. And then for fall break, we're hoping to do Bora Bora for our 15-year anniversary. So essentially, like I'm like, I never, that was like totally out of reach before. And now I'm like 100% confident. Like I know exactly how to earn that vacation. You know, it's like really wild. The world is your oyster. Like besides the Antarctica, like really the world is kind of your oyster. And so I'm essentially like backtracking into, okay, you know, here's how I get to Bora Bora. Here's the hotels in Bora Bora. Here's my home airport. So these are the points I need to earn. So I'm like almost like backwards trip planning in a way.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of determine what's next, essentially.
The other thing that's like, okay, but what about this?
Yeah.
Is how many things I have like subscriptions to that are like even just it's cool because as we're moving to Spain, this is a lot of the like mental chaos that we're eliminating is like the amount of subscriptions we have, the amount of like
totally
random things that we're paying for each month. We're just trying to simplify. But I know that there still are so many things. Like if your credit card gets stolen, like the most annoying thing about it is having to go through and be like, oh crap, like all these auto draft things. So you have to update all of those every time, right?
That's such a great question. So I avoid that like the plague. Like I really try not to touch my auto pays. So we are really always trying to meet those minimum spends through our like variable spend categories. So like groceries, gas, eating out, maybe, you know, like those unexpected costs that come up. Like, you know, like I just had to get a new laptop out of nowhere. Like I didn't want to drop, you know, $1,400 on a new laptop. But the kind of beauty in it is like those things always sting, and they are unavoidable for all of us. And so like it does take away a little bit of the sting to know like I just met a minimum spend really quickly, way quicker than I wanted to, but at least I am getting like loads of travel back in my pocket. Like my spending isn't just dying on itself. Like I am getting experiences back in my pocket for my family, like from those uncomfortable things. So all that to say, I really like the plague, try and avoid changing our auto pays because it's such a hassle. Now, obviously, every family's different. Every budget is different. Some people do, like maybe based on your spending, like you do need to go in and change those auto pays. And that's up to you to determine, like, is that worth it to you? Like, I think it really depends on like how much do you value like those experiences with your family. And again, you can do the light version. You could get, 1 to 2 cards a year and get your family like a guaranteed vacation and not go. So again, it really is like totally what you want to make it. But I do try and make it like as simple and easy on myself as possible. Cause like, just like you, I don't want the mental space taken up. So
that makes so much sense. So you're basically just shifting the credit cards that are in your wallet,
exactly,
not the credit cards that are in like attached to all your things.
Yep, exactly. And that works for us, but it may not work for another family. So
that the variable expenses thing is or the unexpected expenses thing is so powerful. We just had our HVAC go out in our house that we're renting. And I'm like, that sucks so much. But I'm like, actually, and I mean, for the last handful of years, we've been paying for childcare and like that's so expensive and all those things. But several of those things could go on a credit card. So I'm like, that is a minimum. Yeah. That is a way of like, okay, well, that still stings, but I'm going to have to spend that money either way.
No matter what.
Might as well get a vacation out of it.
That's kind of how it's a real mindset shift, but it really is really powerful. So
I know that you have a whole bunch of resources. Do you have anything where it's like you've read the fine print, you know the rules of these different cards? Like, have you already done that work for us? And if so, where can we take advantage of it?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have like poured my heart and soul into these resources for my students. So I do have a free guide that kind of goes over, which we've talked about a lot of it in this call. I have a free guide that walks you through like, kind of basic framework of all this, like 50,000 foot view. Here's like the basics you need to understand. I also offer like a free masterclass if you prefer like face-to-face. So if you like no cost resources to get you started as you're, because it's a lot to take in. Like there is a learning curve. It's a lot of information. So I recommend like, just take your time, like go at it at a pace that isn't overwhelming to you. And then I offer like an in-depth, like everything you could ever want to know, like every question answered, top to bottom, like end to end, everything you could want to know about earning points and redeeming points. Because once you get into it, you do see it can get kind of complicated. Like if you really do want to get the most out of your points, you're like, well, who transfers to who? And like, how do I know like what my bank's transfer partners are? How do I even transfer points? Like, I don't even know how to do that in my bank's portal,
Yeah.
So things like that, it provides, this is my Points 201 guide. It essentially provides like, literally everything you could want to know to like start making those nearly free trips happen faster. So you're not like Googling your life away. You don't like, I've made all the mistakes for you, like with the 20 tabs open for hours on end, like distilled that all, I hope, into, a resource that is like really digestible. There's like 21 video demos in there where I'm like in the corner, like screenshotting my computer, like walking you through step by step exactly what to do.
And so, is that a course or is that
It is. No, it's not a course. So when I first, I launched this because I was getting so many of the same messages over and over. Like everyone had the same questions. And I was like, I've got to find a way to serve people, and get them that tangible, actionable help they need. So it's not a course. So anyways, when I started to create this resource, I polled people and I asked them what they want. Because everyone does courses, right? Everyone out there does a course. And I polled everyone and like, it was like 90-10 people preferred like a downloadable guide versus a course. And I was like, okay, like I'll give the people what they want, And so it's a very like interactive guide. Like there's step-by-steps, there's video demos, there's embedded like tutorials in there. I think a lot of people maybe sometimes like purchase a course and like never actually get to it. It kind of just like sits in your inbox. And so I think a lot of people like I can print this out. Like I have so many of my students that are like, I printed it out. I'm ready to go. I can highlight, I can mark it in, but then it also has the interactive element of the videos and the step-by-steps and tutorials, etc. So yeah.
I love that. We're going to link to that in the show notes so that everyone can have it. Abby, I am inspired. I'm excited. I'm grateful. I really appreciate the like thoughtful, like you're making something that is so important to so many of us possible for those of us who don't have like an endless budget, aka all of us. No one has an endless budget. I love this. Thank you for all of the work that you've done on this. And thank you for spending an hour with us, like letting me just absolutely pick your brain. This has been so fun.
No, it's been truly, I'm like, if I can get more families traveling together, like nothing, because it's like, I feel like sometimes I get lost in the transfer partners and the, redemptions and et cetera. But like really it gets down to like more time and experiences with your favorite people and like making those memories, like hands down, like that's what it's all about, not about all the like, you're like, why am I talking about a credit score? But like really it just gets down to like more time and experiences and making memories with your favorite people and like how that impacts your family culture and your kids and how they see the world. And so yeah, I really try and like keep that at the heart of what I do. I'm really grateful you'd let me share with your audience. So thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much.